Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My co-host today, or maybe actually you're the host, Willow Bradner, and I for this Soul Chats with Ty Gold. Willow has agreed, decided, chosen, elected herself to interview me today with her own channeled questions. Hold up the paper, let everybody see the evidence. This is something that Willow does not do customarily, but the divine provided her the conversations that they would like for us to share today. We normally share this conversation for about an hour, but I always give her take 10 or 15 because I like to leave on a high note that really empowers whoever the people are who may be watching this and gives them a little bit more, like, I don't know, fruit on the vine to play with. So we'll time it, we'll feel it as we go along. So these are entirely channeled questions and conversations. I have no idea what she's going to ask me, which has been a little bit fun, a little bit exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking. But I'm always down for a good time, and I'm a girl who loves to party. So we'll see where it goes. Today,
I don't think there's any gotcha in here, I promise.
No, we'll see. I've always said I'm a pretty open book. I actually allow myself to go into a lot of directions that actually make other people uncomfortable. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes and where it goes. If you're tuning in live in our Facebook group, Be Your Own Guru community, hello, we're streaming from Zoom. So even if you say hello in the comment section, we're not going to see it until I go back and look at the comments afterward. If you're tuning in on the replay, say hashtag replay. Tell us what your biggest takeaways are from this powerful hour with the two of us, psychics, mediums, intuitives. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, definitely say hello and share your takeaways as well. All the replays of Soul Gold get posted to my YouTube channel, Ty Gold Alchemist. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Willow. I just kind of wanted to get us in the door and get us started and let you take it from there.
I think it's good that you ground into your energy at the very beginning of this anyways. It's your platform and your space. And the reason that I really felt called to do this is your questions were so impactful and meaningful as you interviewed me. And one of the things that I noticed both of podcast people, YouTube people, is that there's a lot of output on your end for other people. And it felt really relevant to offer a space holding place for you and a place for you to not drop in. Like, you do drips. You're a drippity drip open book. But to actually get to like open your book and read it felt like impactful for you as well. So thank you for letting me turn the wheels on you, and don't be scared. Okay. Your people love you and they just want to know all the things. And that's what I feel like I'm asking. I am live on Facebook on my phone. So if you guys do ask questions that you want more in, put it in the comments and I will ask Ty right away. Okay. So in case you didn't notice, we both have the nasal drip because that's how we're doing. My first question for you is one that I would ask myself is, when did you start to realize that you were psychic?
So I grew up with a grandmother who referred to intuition as like a mother's intuition. My grandmother knew things and she loved to tell the stories of the moments that she altered or changed someone's life or experience by receiving an intuitive or a psychic hit and then telling them you need to do something about it. And then she was helpful. The aftermath was good that she shared the insight. I had a psychic practicing aunt and didn't even know it for most of my life. So very closeted to the family, but practicing out in the world. So for me, I also had flashes with my children. I had flashes of insight with previous partners, but I didn't really call it psychic. It was my youngest son opening up to his abilities at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old where I had to start studying what different psychic things were, because he was like, Mom, what is this when this happens? I have this, what is that? And I had to like start looking this stuff up. I didn't know. And the more I started learning on his behalf, which I was a daycare administrator, so helping children learn was my gig. That was my jam. So it was easy for me to learn these concepts, translate them for children, and then feed back to him in a way that was really supportive. So I started nurturing his, it wasn't even development, because it just was with him, like it was already there. I was developing the understanding of it. And as I did for him, I started to learn for myself. So I would say 2010, 11, 12.
So that actually leads me into the next question, which is, what was the gateway to the woo? Which it sounds like it's your son.
It was
but
my son.
Was there a book or a guru type person? And you and I are very clear, we don't believe in the gurus, but
Yeah.
Was there a person that you really were like, I'm reading all of their stuff, or I'm interested in everything they have to say?
Yeah, I was a super stressed out mom, and I really focused on a lot of the difficulties, challenges, problems, and trauma in my life, to the point I was constantly talking about it and envisioning worst case scenarios. And I went to that psychic aunt that I mentioned, and I was like word vomiting she was like, you need to learn how to meditate. And I was like, well, yeah, I cannot sit crisscross applesauce and try to like, no. And she was like, you need to try. So I went on YouTube and started looking. And again, because my son was also in this strange realm, I was trying to do anything that served me and helped him. So I think some of my first ones were how to connect with your guardian angel on YouTube. I had so many amazing experiences. I handed it to my children. They met their guardian angels. So meditation was the gateway. I was also coming out of the addiction of opiates. I was addicted to pain pills. And for me to have really beautiful experiences in meditation, I couldn't be on opiates. So there came a point where I had to choose whether or not I wanted to be kind of like numbed out, or have these really beautiful, blissful, and amazing experiences. And for me, meditation gave me a lot of the same like high or euphoric effects, but it didn't have the cost. It didn't have the hangover, and I was a much better person afterward. So I started chasing that high instead of that high, and it kind of brought me out of the dark of that.
That's amazing. That's truly, and that leads me again to the next. See, it's
Sure.
not easy. It's not scary at all, is it? So in that, as you're meditating, you're beginning to heal this side of you that is otherwise addicted. But really, what is addiction but coping from whatever traumas and pains? In a lot of ways, it sounds like that might have been a part of it too.
Yeah.
So to the trauma perspective, and you're welcome to share the sort of backstory here if you want to, or not, it's your choice. But what, aside from the meditation, have you done personally to clear your channel, AKA to work with your trauma and with your history and past, so that you can be the clearest channel for the people that you're working with?
Right. So this is a really good question. The divine became my instructors. They became my teachers, and they started utilizing different types of healing methods. I did have mentors here and there along the way, who helped me. But it seems like a lot of times when you're developing, and I developed at a really fast rate, there's pros and cons, right? If you sign up with a mentor, a lot of times they want you to do things their way. And I was growing so quickly, I wanted to do things my way. And no one was able to hold a space that allowed for my team to guide me, which I was receiving. My guides gave me a lot of past life clearing. They gave me, excuse me, I'm going to cough. They gave me a healing modality that's similar to Reiki. And then they would ask me for example, I'm going to give you an example. They would ask me to run that healing modality on myself for 40 days straight. And in those 40 days, I would have a different encounter every time, where either I would meet the version of myself that was in the crib that almost died from failure to thrive when my mom stopped feeding me and carrying me and taking care of me. So my team would take me to pivotal timelines that left a fracture in my being and my psyche, and we would go back and heal it, clear down to the abortions that I had. My team took me to meet the children that I didn't have and showed them to me how they're doing now, watching them play together. And that healed a part of me that didn't think I was good enough to be a spirit messenger or mentor. So there's been human form, spirit form, but a lot of healing. And then, we always have our human classroom. We have partnerships. These are all opportunities to see the mirror reflection of ourselves and decide whether or not we're gonna be that or challenge ourselves to grow. So I think there's not been one specific thing. I think it's been like a conglomeration of all those things over a decade. I find that when I focus on a lot of the trauma, sometimes it can be a Pandora's box for me, and some things can start festering. So I have to be very careful with my personality to focus on the direction that I want to go and take the wisdom with me that I've learned from these experiences. And one of the things that's really helped me is to understand human beings, for the most part, are usually trying to do the best that they can on any given day. And so if somebody hurts my feelings, it's not usually about me.
Yeah. And we'll get to your empathy in a minute. You and I have very different empathetic systems with which we work.
Yeah.
But I want to continue on this path of that mentor, because I have such curiosity for somebody who is developing very quickly and is choosing sort of the more divine path of letting these invisible magical friends that we have help us.
Right.
Versus having a mentor, but then becoming a mentor yourself.
Yeah.
I curiously wonder how you articulate without being a projector. I know that you're projecting from the divine, but we are still our own filter. So that makes me curious as a mentor to your mentees. How are you holding space for their development, or how are you helping them articulate?
So I teach people kind of how to synchronize their own personal frequency to source, and you can get out of the way with that. I think we started to have a little bit of conversation about this on Facebook, but pretty early on in my development, the divine taught me about this detached mode that we had to get into, where we're okay with the outcome. Like, we don't have an attachment, which as a human being, so hard, right?
Especially when you're an empath the way that you are.
Yeah. So hard. So if we're not in a neutral place, then we're in an imbalanced place. And if we're in an imbalanced place, then we're not neutral enough to keep our hands out of it, right? Or our projections out of the field. I literally did an entire masterclass about projections. That's in Be Your Own Guru right now. And how to because I had so many mistakes, or I was oscillating between being attached or being detached. So becoming neutral, observant, and detached to the psychic, to the channel, and to where you're okay with whatever the outcome is. That's how you would maintain the balance and not projecting in there. And there is a lot of soul healing that has to happen to get there.
And that's what I was going to say. It sounds like in your childhood, your source of trust was disrupted, broken, cracked, ripped apart. There was nothing to hold on to so here you are as an adult, recognizing and realizing as you're witnessing it through your own son, that you too have this course of divinity running through you.
Right.
And now you're essentially being asked to trust it beyond your own ego to help other people serve. How do you feel into that trust for yourself? How does that, because it's trust of them, but it's like everything else has broken you. How do you then trust this invisible force?
Right. So the pendulum has swung a lot of directions in the last 11 years. So at first I started out as like the skeptic who became a psychic. And every time the divine would tell me something or ask me to do something, I needed evidence. I needed proof. I said, I was a teacher first. I said, I'm not going anywhere. And I was teaching as I was developing. So like the first talk or workshop I ever gave was called How Meditation Became My Medication. So literally block one was one of my first instructional pieces. And that's where they started me out at. Excuse me. So I did start out so skeptical that it was tapped into fear, doubt, disbelief. It was an unhealthy amount of skepticism, but they followed it to the letter and to the T and gave me evidence every time I asked for it. And so they had to earn my trust with the material that they were giving me. I also understood that I had an addiction issues, and I had driven my life myself to a place where a lot of areas had become unmanageable. So I entered into a level, once they earned my trust, I entered into a level of codependency with my team, where I wouldn't even go have lunch with someone without meditating and asking about it. I wouldn't buy the purse. I wouldn't apply for the job without meditating and asking about it. So they went through a period, they allowed it for a while, and then they went through a period where they're like, we're going to take the hand off the back of the bicycle and you're going to be pedaling on your own for a while, because they wanted me to have a say, make decisions, feel what was right or left for me, and create a course or a path or a direction that way.
Trust in yourself.
Yeah. And there was a time they took their hand off the bicycle and didn't tell me, and I crashed and burned in front of my entire family, and it was bad. It was really bad. And I actually had a falling out with my team about that. And it was because I was in this level of codependency and magical thinking. If they told me, I did it, and it was so, and it was done, and there was not enough logic. So where I'm at now is like what I believe a beautiful marriage of logic with intuition, and I call it co-creating with the divine. We work as a team, but I don't feel like I distrust them, and I also don't feel like I am incapable of making solid decisions without them.
Which leads me actually to the last question that I had for you, but it's like a perfect segue. So when or how do you choose to separate your like personality, your present life from sort of that divine, or from tapping in regularly? Like, what is a general day for you? If you're like, are you doing both, and are you tapping in the, I don't know, what's a general day for you, and how do you remain in both and spaces?
I had a spirit circle at the end of April, and this is relevant because we were guided to ask questions. I channeled a prompt and everybody heard it, but I also received the answer. And the prompt was asking Creator, why am I here? Why am I here? And every person in the circle asked Creator, got an answer. And the response that I heard was to bring the divine to people and then watch the impact and the ripple effects. So just very specifically, I feel like I am meant to be that conduit or that presence like, bringing in the divine channel. So my day to day, we're in constant conversations, and I have probably 2 to 4 meditations a day. So it's this and that. My oldest showed up today, or a few days ago, and we were talking about my Facebook and how I utilize it. And he's like, I don't know that lady, which kind of makes me laugh, because I feel like I'm the same person everywhere. But in his eyes, he doesn't know that lady. So I've been sitting with that for the past few days. And you have to understand, like, he's never been to a workshop. He's never tuned into one of my courses.
And that's kind of where I'm getting at, is like, is there room for you, the human tie, to exist outside of the spirit tie?
Yeah, definitely. And I think my,
like what's breakfast? Like, I want to get to the breakfast of this. Like, what are you choosing for breakfast? And if you and your husband go for a walk, or you guys, I know, are about to go embark on this European travel, and you be in the present without the invitation of.
But it still shows up, like.
And it might, but
it does.
Is there any division of labor here?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. One of my, like, soul's natural gifts is being in the right time at the right place for something really magical to happen. So when you're asking me these questions, I just think about how everywhere I go, it just seems so magical, and I'm in awe.
And so then I hear that and I go, well, same. So even when you're pooping, like.
Oh yeah. Huh.
No. Because I mean, sometimes poop is the most magical part of my day.
Wow.
Can it feel that way for you too?
I don't know. I don't know if I get that excited about that. I just I feel like I human, like a regular human. Like, we go out to eat, we do breakfast, I have arguments with my husband, I fall out with friends. Like, it's all just feels really braided, really intertwined to me. If I have a fallout with a friend, I ask the divine, show me my responsibility in this, and can I fix it? What can I do to fix it? So they're really helpful, like a friend would be. They're great counsel. I tend to be hot-headed, and sometimes I assume the worst in people, and I have to remind myself, we're all just humans trying to do the best that we can. So so for me, I just feel like it's all intertwined in there. And being in the right place at the right time, that stuff just shows up. Like,
I agree with that statement. I know all of that.
You'll just be somewhere, and somebody will knock on the door, and a situation will unravel, and that was kind of meant, that happenstance was meant for the greater good of everybody, for you to be there at that time. So does that answer your question? Like, I feel like I'm regular. Like
I'm normal. I just talk to the other side all the time.
I know, but that's I think that's because that's one of my promises to people, is that you can have a phone line to the divine anytime you want. And I also think there's like a healthy balance. Like, I meditated this morning, and they said, you're going to receive a few surprises today, and I'm like, yay, and so, like, I'm just showing up, doing the day, and it's just going to get better and better.
I love that. So you've said this word a couple times, and I think you and I have spoken a lot about this word codependency. And the way I psychic and the way you psychic are quite different. I do individual and group reading. So I psychic, but I don't teach. You teach, but you don't per se. And I know that you do individually psychic, but differently than how I do it. But once upon a time, you did it my way, or you did it it's not my way. You did it this way. And you used the word codependency as the reason for why you quit. And I'm curious what that means. And the why you changed structure.
So when I started receiving divine guidance, like in 2012 for other people, that looked like me doing oracle card readings at first. I signed up with a mentor who kind of coached me for a while. And she called me one day and said, I don't think you need me anymore. And yeah, so I went very quickly from interpreting oracle cards to channeling guidance. And I remember getting feedback from one of those first sessions, and somebody had given me details about how accurate it was. And it was one of the first ones I had done without the cards, because I really needed that validation in the beginning. And I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, if I could do this for the rest of my life, I would. So when I looked at the options that I was aware of, you know, when you go like psychic options, it looked like readings, right? And psychic fair.
Totally.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I was kind of repulsed, but also intrigued by like the Doreen Virtues, James Van Prague, Sylvia Brown. There was like different things that I aspired and then didn't love. So anyway, these were the flowers, and I was picking and choosing in the field, and I was picking and choosing, you know, what I liked and what I didn't about it. But what kept happening was the way I channel guidance tends to be different. And I could get like volumes and volumes of material, pages and pages of channeled notes about people when people would ask me for sessions. And a lot of it was so pure. The divine was sending me other psychics and other healers, and I didn't understand why they couldn't do this for themselves. I thought if any of us were doing this for other people, we had the ability to do this for ourselves. And my team guided me trained me to receive for myself first before receiving for anyone else. So I kind of had an alternate, I think, experience. And anyway, fast forward, I was like recording voice notes, typed out channeled messages, and then that led to like psychic fairs. And I was so bored. I have pictures of me at a psychic fair on my birthday, and I'm like
bored,
sold out and bored. And so that was definitely a sign. And I don't mean to like take this service, like this ability to provide this service for granted, or, you know, the opportunity. It just wasn't, I wasn't excited to be out there, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I felt like we were almost pandering. Like I was in these little like spiritual shops. Sometimes they would have like 3 to 5 of us. People are hustling, and it felt like real estate. People were cutthroat.
like, this is my corner, bitch.
Competitive. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I worked for one spiritual shop who was also closeted, so they didn't want to advertise. They wanted a psychic there, but didn't want to advertise. I don't know. It was just went through some really odd experiences. And then I wanted to set my prices. I wanted to set my time. I wanted to structure my offers. And I had falling out with another owner who wanted me to 100% refund somebody who asked me for like kept, you know, because you start with the 20 minutes for 20 whatever dollars, and then you're like, do you want to keep going? Yes, I do. Do you want to keep going at different intervals? So she had me go for almost an hour and a half, came back a few days later and told the owner that it didn't resonate, and the owner wanted me to give all her money back. And I was like, she has a level of ownership in this. She wanted to keep going. And so I had asked God to send me a sign if I was meant to be doing these kinds of readings. And one building burnt down. So I went to the next one, and that's where the owner and I kind of had a falling out. And she said, you'll learn in your entrepreneurial career, it's better to just give somebody their money back than to argue over who has responsibility. So that's when I decided it was time for me to strike it out on my own. And that's when I really focused on being online. And I was, really passionate about, I thought I could provide like transformational readings. So this is where kind of like some of the development of giving people the tools to change their life. I increased my price point, so it was a real investment for somebody to want to book time with me, but I was still not really teaching, maybe a little bit teaching in the transformational sessions, not doing any of the healing and just the guidance. And I was not seeing the transformation that I wanted to see with people. And I realized I wanted to kind of like stay with them longer. And I know you asked me about the codependency part. I had people who were signing up for psychic, and never implementing, wanting the information to be different without changing anything that they were doing. And I like I said, I just realized I was way more passionate about the actual implementation and the transformation than just providing them the info. It felt like a waste of time for me to give a single, and it was psychics and healers over and over. And I'm like, you guys, we've got to fix this. You can do this for yourself. Like, I can show you, I guess I'm going to show you how. I have to show you how. You have to want to do this for yourself. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people would rather just pay somebody, and that's fine. But I'm definitely here to encourage people if they're going to go to psychics. I don't think there's anything bad about that. I would limit it to like once or twice a year. That's my when the curiosity
You're in
peaks.
agreement.
Yeah. If you're going to back psychics, or if you love psychic stuff so much, like if you're going to back psychics, that's one issue. You're not able to discern for yourself. There's a problem here. And you need to probably just make a decision, like pull the trigger on a decision and just let it play out. And if you are just enjoy going to psychics, like you think it's fun, then I think you're probably aligned to practice being a psychic. Like if so that's, I kind of just pulled back and decided this industry wasn't for me. So I started asking God, like, what else is there? And I started noticing other people in the industry doing other things. And I thought about, trance channel, going that route, but I can channel with my eyes open. And I don't need to. So anyway, regarding the codependency thing, did I answer that all the way?
I mean, it's just, it's the answer that I was anticipating, which is we don't want people to be codependent on the message. We want people to learn how to trust themselves at the end of the day, which is why you have to be your own guru community, which is in essence to help build those trust muscles, which again, I think is so remarkable for somebody. I would say that your word that you work off of, whether you say it every day or not out loud, is the T word, trust. In the sense that, like, again, from somebody who comes from a space where all trust was wounded and broken, learning how to trust in the invisible felt easier at times, perhaps, than the trusting down here on planet Earth. Sometimes. And what I think is so remarkable, though, is like most people struggle because of rationality to trust in this invisible.
Well, there was just too many. God coordinated too many singular events for me to be like, I don't believe this. There was too many. Like, I'll give you an example. And this is wild. And I don't share these stories very often because they're that wild. My intention is to put them in a book because I kind of just like to tell them and then push it out there. But this might have been right around the time where I was asked to run energy on myself for 40 days. And I was asked one evening to drive out to the beach at sunset and do an energy session, either for myself or someone else. So I'm sitting out on a blanket on the beach by myself, running energy. And at this point, I had a very strong connection with Creator Source God, which is very hard for some people to accept, but it happened. Big booming voice, loud and clear. And we had a lot of conversations. So the voice that I understand as God showed up and said, pick a color. And I was like rattled because I was in my breathing and running the energy as you do. And I was like, okay, red. And I opened my eyes and the sky changed red, fully red. There's people on the beach. I'm not the only one there. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's really cool. And God said, I want you to pick another color. And because I was a skeptic, the fierce, solid skeptic that I am, I said green. I wanted nothing even remotely connected to the color that I was looking at. I wanted it to be impossible for the sky to go an unnatural color. Sure enough, the entire sky within 30 seconds started to change color, went to green. So I did this for about 4 or 5 different colors, just shook. And God said, you and I can create magic together. And you and I working together can provide miracles for other people to witness. And I want you to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like moments like that where I was literally shown and then asked to trust. So the validation was there like over and over. Huge significance events like that for me.
There's a gentleman by the name of Panache Desai who has a very similar story. I don't
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah. As you're telling the story, I had to write his name down because I just wanted to reference it for you to go check out. Just sometimes it's nice to know that we're not alone in the experiences that we're shown.
Sure. Yeah.
Mine was gambling, but you know, I think the sky changing is way prettier.
I love that.
I win money, but anyways.
So we can, like, that's a beautiful experience. It's so individual, right? And it's so personal. And so I would say the divine taught me to trust, but I was anchored. I loved being the psychic that was a skeptic. I loved that title. That was like my business card. I thought it was.
I'm still that.
Well, I moved over quite a bit.
You have moved over.
Asking me a lot of these questions.
Solidly in skepticism. That is the difference between you and I. But this leads me to the bigger, like, I want to talk a little bit more personal, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things in my recognition in getting to know you is this LOVE word, love.
Yeah.
And I think if it's not trust, then it's love. And I feel like you have fallen in love so many times in your life, both gotten hurt by the love, but have also fallen for the love. And the love has both been your teacher and your guide. And as well, I wonder now, let's start at the beginning of love for you.
Yeah.
How did love approach you first? Because I know where you are currently, but let's talk about how love affected you at first.
What do you mean, like when I was a teenager?
Like, I mean, how did you fall in love in the past? Was it all empathetic? Was it all in hopes of that codependent need for filling up? How did that love first find you? And how did it feel for you? Like, let's say with your first partner.
Right. I feel like I spent a lot of time looking for acceptance and looking for an anchor. And I feel like I came into this lifetime kind of with like an imprint or a system or an idea of what a family life, how it should function. And I was like in a big hurry to start to create that stability. I was also super impulsive.
That is so funny to hear you say that.
Oh God.
Knowing you today, you guys, if you ever work with Ty, she is the least impulsive person.
Oh my God.
I am like a spaz, and this poor thing is always trying to keep up with me when we're working together. But
when
she
you
is
make it to your 40s
and slow and calculated and processes. So it's
so
wild
impulsive.
Like it's like your first half of life was the impulsivity of love and acceptance then.
Yeah. And so you know how you can have certain like attributes that are like a blessing and a curse, like it's a good thing, but it can also be, so my ability to change, transform, transmute move past something, move quickly through something. That's always been a part of my personality, but I didn't always take inventory on the collateral damage or the crime scene. And it started to do me well to like take a minute and be like, how did that pile up occur how did we get there? And then start like making modifications accordingly. But that took me like a really long time to get there. And I think I would fall into like infatuation with someone and then immediately try to make a family out of it. And the other thing that can be a blessing and a curse is my ability to see the potential. And this one hit me like a rock when the divine and I start having conversations about this. I have the beautiful ability to see the outcome of mine and your work together, right? To be able to almost like a projector screen, see where we could end up and what our options are and timelines to creating that. I used to do that with partnerships too. So I never saw the reality of the individual. I always saw the potential. And I fell in love with the potential and then was constantly disappointed by the reality. And I couldn't understand why we couldn't get there. And it's really because that person wasn't asking to be in this potential. I just put them there and said, you know what you need to do. I was constantly telling everybody what they needed to do.
Shitting on all the people.
Everybody. Yeah. So I'd say it was like a combination. So I
a crash course in love.
Yeah, in love and out of love in a lot of hard ways. And I recently had my astrology looked at, which astrology is a map in a math formula or whatever that I can't quite seem to no. So I really like try to pay attention when people are talking, but it almost does car mechanics things to me, and I'm just like, okay, if you say it works and the system checks out, it's fine. But I was paying attention because this one particular person spoke in language that I could understand, and she said it's your soul's homework in this lifetime to master relationships. And I said, that ain't that the truth? That is the truth. So it's literally soul homework for it resonates. I agree with it. I'm working on it constantly. It's a work in progress. So, love for me, it could be with children, it could be with parents. We have to decide who we're going to love up close, who we're going to love from afar, who we're going to, love with grace, and who we're going to allow to be in our everyday life. So
let me ask you this, because this is again a discernible difference between us. You have empathy.
Oh, like at 99% afflicted.
You on the empathic zone are like, and I on the empathic zone, I'm somewhere between here and here.
That's why you're better at doing what you do than
I don't feel into the feelings. And even when it comes to the compass of love, like I manage probably closer to the no button on empathy and love than I do to the yes, because of the feelings. Like the feelings are too much for me. So I just learned how to turn the button off. And what I think is remarkable about you is that you have this, I'm not surprised, like in learning just today about this opioid thing, I'm kind of not surprised, because if I felt the way that you have the ability to feel,
I was numbing.
I would have to take something. And I just learned how to turn that, probably like with meditation, you've learned how to manage some of those vibes. Me, I just was like, fuck it, turn it off. So aside from meditation, how do you manage all the feelings that you feel? And I'm going to up that, but I want to hear that answer, and then I'm going to up that question.
The divine again gave me a bunch of instruction. That was like 101 was, we got to get your empath abilities under control. And I was like, what are you even talking about? And they showed me how I could literally copy, mimic, feel exactly what the person next to me is feeling. I said it out loud, and when I did, the girl next to me goes, that's exactly how I'm feeling. And I was like, ooh, like I didn't even know it was a thing. So the first lessons was kind of like protection and giving me resources to transmute that. So That being said, I also had a conversation with Creator back in 2013 where we started talking about like, what is the core essence of your being? Like, what are you here to create? What are you here to embody? Which is also like master. And for me, it's love. So it's literally,
which I think is
purpose
empathy,
of my
to
presence.
be honest.
Do you?
I think empathy is, I think those who have a strong sense of empathy actually have more ability for love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hurts them more,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Oh, yeah.
why many of us strive in the polar opposite direction, is because we're
Mhm.
like, fuck that pain, no thanks. I guess I
Yeah.
won't have this life,
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely, I had a lot of suicide attempts and stuff like that. And before 2005 was my last one. And that one really like changed the course and direction of my life. But that's how heavy I would get into like anchoring myself to the idea at that time that I had of love, and how broken and not okay I was if it wasn't working out. Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that I find, you may find this normal, I find it remarkable. Your current love story is that a fairy tale to me.
Aw.
And you know how weepy I get on this subject. But to be as empathic as you are, and I hope is it okay if I bring
Yeah,
your
for
husband
sure.
into this conversation? I hope Riley would not be offended, but to be as empathic as you are and invested in the expression of love, you have equally not only put yourself in other versions and variations of pain, but you are also somebody who has developed love and relationship with the LGBTQIA and your husband being trans community.
Yeah.
How do you, because I can feel that love to the point of it makes me cry every time. How do you, I don't want you to guard against that feeling. I want you to get to lean into that feeling, but I don't want you to get hurt by that feeling. Do you know what I mean? How do you manage? Because you don't choose small.
No, I know. And I've done that always, just so you know.
You choose like, I would like to try the hardest thing on ever. And trust me, for those of you who have not met Riley is the most magical human on planet Earth, in my opinion. I'm obsessed with him. And I would be like a Navy SEAL around him, protecting him at all costs.
I started out that way in the beginning, and he got really clear with me that he didn't need me to do that. So, yeah. So
which is nice that he has that. Because meanwhile, I'm still like, I don't care.
Right. Well, just to give you a little bit of, I'll give you some background how we got here, and then it might make a little bit more sense how I ended up in this with us as a unit. Yeah. So my biological father, who I have had most of my life no relationship with, I rode a Greyhound bus at 14 years old to a prison in Atlanta, Georgia, to meet him for the first time. He is a leader of the Klan. And so
and can I pause you? Are you biracial?
Am I? No,
not at all. Okay.
No,
there's something in me that thought that you also had a little
there's a funny story with
inside.
Yeah, there's a funny story with my name. My full name is actually Tyrese. And that's another one that's probably going to go in the book because it's really wild and out there. But I don't know if we're going to share that one today. So so my biological father was also an alcoholic, and so he came home and told my mother, who was a runaway teen. She was in her teens, he was in his 20s. They met doing a drug deal. This was my lovely beginnings. she had gotten pregnant, and he said he had gone to the bar and he came home and said, this is what we're going to name her. And they were married very short, like just a very brief time. And then my grandma ended up telling him to hit the road, I think because he was being violent against my mother. And that was the last that my family heard from him. So the name was given, and it didn't make much sense, but my first boyfriend was not white.
Mm-hmm.
So I essentially, my first romantic relationship caused a rift, and I was just a nonconformist. I was very much an idealist, and I didn't care what anybody else said. I brought home to my grandmother's house a female partner back in 2007. I didn't announce, I didn't come out, I just showed up. And that's how I did. I just walked in a room, being who I am and with whoever I'm with. And if somebody has a problem with it, I mean, they can ask me to leave, but I was my grandmother's favorite person. So whoever I walked in the door with, she just hugged them and we moved on. Mm-hmm. And my grandma was one of the most prevalent figures in my life. So I have a lot of stories about her. She was very positive and very impactful. Mm-hmm. And she's passed away in 2013. So my grandmother's acceptance of me was fundamental, and then also her acceptance of whoever I walked in the door with. When that relationship did not work out in 2012 with that female, I was devastated. And I went to God and I said, am I gay? Am I straight? Because I'm not good at any relationships at this point. Like, that's how I took it. None of these are working. I wanted to set up a Match.com dating profile, and I didn't know which box to tick. So
because you're not a box.
I know. And I was thirsty and hungry. I was a serial monogamist. I just backed those relationships right back against each other, didn't take inventory of the car crashes, and I was ready to pull up to my next one. And God said to me in 2012, your heart only knows love, not gender. And I was mad. That is not a box that I can tick on Match.com.
Yeah.
So I was really open. I knew.
Isn't OkCupid, I want to pause for anybody who is non-gender conforming, isn't OkCupid a safe space for that now?
I don't know. I believe
that OkCupid became a non-binary open space. If I'm
platform,
wrong,
that's great
on that, but I think that is a non-conforming gender platform that is a safe space. I believe. If I'm wrong, tell me.
I had been in the psychic realm enough that I had asked enough psychics about my like potential soulmate. Like, they told me I would meet them online. They told me I would need to make the first move. But I didn't feel like it was going to be a dating platform, because I saw like the questionnaire and the inventory on there, and I was like, there's no way, this is not it. And I knew I wanted an international person. I wanted to be with somebody who read a lot. I knew how I wanted to be treated. I knew I wanted to be treated like, you know, the most beautiful princess in the world. One of my favorite things is to be like picked up and spun around. Like, I want the doors opened for me. I just knew how I wanted to be treated, and what that person looked like or shape or what body, what they came in, didn't matter to me. Yeah. And so God's definition was really accurate. I didn't realize at the time that's basically the definition of pansexual. And when you see the plus sign for LGBTQ plus, that's the I'm the plus. I'm in the plus, but I didn't understand all that then. So the next partner that the divine sent me was actually what looked like a same-sex partner for the first few months that we were together. Then I started channeling about their gender identity. They ended up getting diagnosed as intersexed, and through the course of our relationship became a transgender male. But I thought I went into the relationship with a woman. By the time we broke up, they were fully male. And I went through that whole experience with them in about 2.5, 3 years. So now this had even opened my range of like who I'm compatible with or willing to partner with. I would have never met Riley had it not been for that experience, because I was really green to all of the inner workings and dynamics of the LGBT. I knew about lesbians and I knew about, bisexual, because that's kind of how I identified until the trans folks started showing up. And then I was like, pansexual. So it kind of even developed for me. So that's how that went. But and again, I made no announcements, not to my children, not to my family. I just showed up. This is who I'm with, and what time's dinner? What are we eating? So
can I ask you on a psychic level, because I have curiosities. This is like something that I'd love to know from you psychically. I do believe that we are in an evolutionary time frame. I think trans, gay, all of it, we've all been here this whole time. It's all been happening since the beginning of time. I don't think that it's necessarily new. I just think we're talking about it and equalizing it somewhat. And now obviously it's like been politicized. But my curiosity is, from your perspective, the way that the volume is being turned up on it, or the way that people are entering into the contract of their skin suit.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sensing it as past? Like, are you having any sense about it? I guess I don't want to project. Are you having any sense about it?
Well, I'm gonna suggest something. I have a different philosophy based on a lot of the conversations I've had with the divine, and I've also channeled a lot, providing sessions and support for trans people. Few things that you might find interesting to just kind of throw into your
repertoire.
Yeah. I think that there's probably double or triple the trans or non-binary people on this planet, because I think it's time. I think it's time that we accept that gender is fluid, that it's a spectrum, that it's not just to this or that. And I think it has been going on since the beginning of time, but I think now we're being flooded and then it's being amplified. And I think that's what you're speaking to as well. I think social media makes everything everywhere present right now. So I based on the conversations I've channeled from the divine, again, for trans people, I've had trans people involve me in that conversation, and Creator said to a trans person who was very upset that they were not born the gender that they believed and felt and desired to be. And Creator said, you were born with both, and you carry the closest vibration or experience to what I am.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because that's something that I am constantly saying is like, God is a they, people.
Yeah. 100%.
God is an us, a they, a them, a whatevs, but it is not a he or a she. It is not a black or white.
Yeah. So if people will allow themselves to feel into this idea that a person can be both, or a spectrum, then I think they're going to embrace an even better understanding of our Creator, and it pulls us out of the old throne paradigm, early gates, whatever, guy with a beard, staff. What does he have these days? I don't know. So that's been really interesting. And then I want to share one other thing about trans people. What I have channeled is for some of them. And this is some, not all. This isn't a blanket rule, but it may be what some people would understand as some of the trans people are having like walk-in experiences, where like a certain soul will be the presence that gets them to a certain point. And then when transition happens, literally a different spirit enters the body. This one hangs around as a spirit guide to help with the transformation and transition, almost like a coach. And then there's literally, I've been guided to ask the trans folk to have a ceremony saying goodbye to former self spirit guide version of them. And they leave, and this one comes in. And so there's a lot of history in our spiritual books, a lot of data out there about walk-ins, but usually it would come from somebody who had attempted suicide or
which leads me to your suicide point. When you mentioned that your last attempt was 2005, my curiosity was, did you get a walk-in? Do you feel, or a both ander, do you feel like a piece of you walked in at that moment and was like, all right?
Yeah. It's possible. I definitely still feel like it's me. So if it was a soul version of me that was better at being a mom, passionate about being a teacher, and really committed to personal growth and understanding herself better and healing, yeah, because I was really festered in the dark of my beginnings. I couldn't tell that story enough. And that's why a lot of times I don't even talk about it much, because I really played that song in verse for a
Well, it's
long
interesting
time.
too, because the frequency for me of that version of, even as you tap into that version of yourself, it's like there's a totally different frequency to that girl than this girl that I'm hanging out with. And I know if I met them both from that day to this day, I believe I would see a wild difference. And there's obviously the essence might have remained, but certain aspects, like it makes me curious. I had this conversation with a girlfriend who's really into the Enneagram space. And my conversation with her the other day was, why is it somebody can go to therapy every single day of the week and not make those adjustments? Whereas somebody else can go to therapy and be like, woo, I got it. I'm into it. I can do the stuff. I'm into it. And so I think that really is relevant to sort of that transformative. And I don't know if there's a walk-in or a reason for it, but it's really curious. Fun to play with the idea.
Yeah. So I'll speak to that. I was when the suicide attempt in 2005, I had a near-death experience, and then I died and came back, and then I was in a coma for 3 days. So when I came out of it, I was so passionate about finding a purpose. I felt like I needed a purpose that would give me a reason beyond being a wife and a mother, like a will to live, a reason to live. And I've had, and I didn't have that before. I feel like that's what kept me moving this direction and out of the dark. I have channeled a lot of information about walk-ins, and they tend to have some commonalities, meaning their relationships, which I guess you could put me in this box, but their relationships with the people in their life change. Whether, like, some people who have children, the walk-in doesn't have a connection to those children. My connection with the boys actually got way better. And then a lot of times they don't have recall of, they didn't have the history, and so they don't have memory or recall. My recall of that is really solid. So,
well, and I feel like it's like part of you was here.
Which,
and then the rest of you showed up.
Came in.
That's how it feels to me differently.
Which I've channeled information like that for some trans people who literally had 3 spirits moving in and out of their body.
Trying to figure out what to do.
Who was staying and who was going. Riley is one of those people. And one of the spirits he had moving in and out of his body, he thought was an imaginary figure, because he would play out the idea of being a guy. But the guy he would pretend being was named Reese. And it's spelled exactly the same way as my name, Tyrese. And so when I started channeling Reese, in the beginning, when Riley and I met, I could connect to these individuals and communicate for them. Riley got to the point where he was good enough at divine communication that he took the microphone and they had their own conversations. But Reese, Riley's other, Reese claimed that he's the one that whispered the name Tyrese to my drunk dad in the bar all those years before, that we have a past life connection, being brother and sister. And this is how he intended to kind of like create a significant link for Riley and I, that we couldn't dispute or refuse, that we are in some way intricately connected. So I wasn't sure if I was going to save that one for the book or share it with you, but
that's okay. That's okay. I love it. It's good sometimes to talk it through and feel it through to see if it lands.
I love that. The bottom line is, sometimes trans folk may have alternating spirits, and sometimes they could be having walk-in experiences, and sometimes they can literally be carrying around the presence of both the masculine and feminine soul in-house.
Mhm.
And I think they're most divinely connected and should be respected, and we could learn a lot.
1000. I mean, I know that at one point it'll all come clear to us. We're just really struggling getting out of the masculine and out of the cis white gender manscape that we've been.
Yeah, everybody makes it
many-
mean something, you know, this means this means that, this means this means that, and they make it hard.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything. Because I know we're at our over 10-minute point, I'll ask the last couple questions that feel really impactful for the people that are watching and for the people that you serve.
Yeah.
And that is, why is the work that you're doing today important?
Because I think it is important that we have clear channels on this planet. Like, if you want to be in service to other people and you want to do it a good job at it accurately, most beneficial, no dependence, like codependency on each other, and be able to have conversations with the divine that helps you with, like, I don't know, your checkbook, your relationships, your personal growth. Like, it's been the same reason for me for a long time. And then I think that's why the work that I do is so important. The divine set me up recently, you know, like the last, I would say, year and a half, to help people with their businesses. And I love doing that. I'm really passionate about people serving, not just for money, not just for profit, but because they're being invited and guided by the divine for like a mission that serves the planet. And, you know, even the word mission, almost every individual I have to mentor, we have to redefine what mission means now, because it's not military mission, it's not church mission, it's not martyrdom. Mission is an invitation from the divine, and you have decided, chosen, committed to see it through. That's it.
And it doesn't even have to do with your job. Sometimes the mission is to show up and be a bright person, like as a light bulb for other people around you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Sometimes I think we use words and we make them bigger than they need to be. So I just wanted to share that. Who do you think your work helps the most? Like, who do you think your version of your co-creation with divine helps the most?
Probably those people who feel like there's more. There's more, that they know there's more out there. They know they could be doing more. They're passionate about being of service, but maybe they don't know what that looks like. Or they're being of service and providing amazing value, but they're not seeing the money that they feel like they deserve or want for it. Because again, we're not sacrificing as we're being of service. And sometimes people aren't sure what does that look like when they're in that in-between stage or phase. And as you said, I tend to be like very organized, and so a lot of times I'm brought in, the divine asked me to support somebody who is already like on fire. They need me to help stabilize. They need me to help, like, let's bring it down, let's bring it together, let's put it, you know, like maybe they have a really rapid pace, but so some of my job is like, let's create a formula, you know,
Yes, I love that.
So
I love that.
What I do on an individual basis to support people, and then what New Earth Magic School does is a little bit of an overlap, but they are a little bit like two different things. And so I feel like if somebody's just starting out with their abilities or their conversations with the divine, their best bet is to check out New Earth Magic School. If somebody is already kind of like an intuitive or psychic or healing business owner and they want more-ish, that's where you come see me, I think.
I love that. My final question, which you more or less just answered, but I do have a curiosity. For somebody who is feeling the call to this industry, to this idea of being a channel or being intuitively psychic, however it's showing up for them, whatever that call mission is for them,
Yeah.
what would you tell them that
Less.
you wish you might have heard?
That I wish I might have heard. I think I'm still going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Less books, more practice, and open yourself up to new experiences.
And join the New Earth School.
New Earth Magic School. New Earth Magic School is really for an individual who already has a bit of a passion. But if you're an empath and you want some self-care tools or divine communication, you're like, I would like to have this thing on, like
more consistent.
Yeah. And New Earth Magic, Spirit Messenger training is at New Earth Magic School. It teaches a bunch of different abilities. So I think you and I had a conversation online about this, like how to appropriately use a pendulum. And the reason why this course I think is so good is because I put all my mistakes in there. I put the divine, what the divine says to do, and then everything that Ty's done wrong, we're just going to save you from those mistakes too. So I'm really honest in there when I and I was an overachiever. So when I made mistakes, they were good. They were real good.
The reason the pendulum, and I think it's funny, the pendulum conversation came up at all. I was teaching a class with a gal who was very ego driven on hers. And was moving her body like she was moving to use the pendulum. I was like, oh sis, you're super out of trust with it. And then what I noticed was when I was feeling stressed, if I was trying to use it, what I was really asking was, give me the answer that I'm looking for. And that's where, like, for me, some of the tools are not a fit because my ego is so good at it.
My pendulum told me every guy I was interested was the one.
Yeah. Tricky, huh? Yeah.
So that's how we have such great material at New Earth Magic
But I also think that that's, and from both of our perspectives, again, going back to that codependency experience versus trusting yourself, is even a psychic, if they're not clear in their channel, if they are a projector of your ego, if they are connected to what you want versus the truth of what they're getting handed, even a psychic can tell you he's the one and they're not, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot to be said about learning how to trust yourself, your instinct, your inner voice, your connection to the divine, your connection to having already been here and done this. All of that is within you. And I do believe that you are the teacher for the job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just to close this out, I was providing a master class or a training one time, and I had a lady chime in with a question, and we were talking about past lives. And at the time, I think I was providing past life readings. This was another like blink, blink. This is me on my way out. This is me on my way out. I was having a discussion about past lives and how important it is to have a sense about them, our conversation about them regarding our soul's evolution and development this lifetime, and how like impactful they can influence things. So this lady chimed in with a question, and she said, would a past life reading tell me if I should stay with my husband whom I've been with for 20 years? I said, no psychic should ever tell you that. No psychic. Don't make that decision off of any psychic. And that's why I was like, leaving. User has left the chat. I was just
the psychic that I get gives me the 3 answers. Like you and I have spoken about the choose your own ending novel. I'm like, this is what this one feels like. This is what this one feels like. This is what this one feels like. You're still in charge. You're still in charge. Okay. And sometimes they're going to fuck with us and say, leave the guy. By the way, they're just saying it so you double down in your relationship and don't go. It's real funny. I think psychic's real funny. I can't believe we ended up in this space. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's a weird job we both decided to do.
Yes. Well, I'm grateful and thankful to be rocking it out beside you, and I really appreciate
Back
you
at you, sister. And
sharing
I'm
your time
glad there
today.
are different ways. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you were so willing to share with your personal audience the pieces of
Yeah.
you that we don't always get to see, and the pieces of you that we can understand more where it comes from and how it articulates in you.
Yeah, I feel like now, I did not feel like this before 2005 or even 2012. I wasn't so sure about it, but I definitely feel like we live in a very magical, very wonderful world, and I love to help people put those spectacles on so that they can appreciate what they have and enjoy it much more. Yeah.
On that note, you guys, thanks for joining Hi
Yes.
in all her
Thank
brilliance.
you.
Love you,
We'll talk
girl.
to you soon. Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for checking out this video today. Be sure to like the video, share, subscribe to my channel. And if you really had a wonderful experience on this video, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments section. I love reading those. And if you would like to explore some more of my juicy magic and medicine, please visit my website at newearthmagicschool.com and register for my email list. I've got some things that you're going to love exploring. And if you would like to join our wonderful safe space on Facebook, we have a beautiful community called Be Your Own Guru. Until next time, bye-bye.